Hello. What's going on, Title Tribe, and everybody that's jumping in tonight to watch us at T2T After Dark. As you can see tonight, I am joined by one of our regular compadres, Mr. Abe. Abe, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Rich?
How was your week?
Good. I actually went out of town for a golf trip with some buddies. Headed over to Iowa and did some gambling, some golfing all weekend. So I didn't watch my normal Sunday football like I sit and pretty much watch every game because I was out golfing for a little bit of it. But got enough football in to kind of get my taste buds wet and got some golf in. So it was a good weekend.
Yeah, so I got a little golfing in this weekend too. So every time my wife needs to get her hair done and stuff like that, it's like an hour away, and she hates driving. So she always bribes me saying, "Hey, if you drive me down there, I'll let you go golfing while I'm getting my hair done."
Yeah, that's a good deal.
All right,
That's a real
so
good deal.
as everybody can see, Nate ain't able to join us today. Had some dysfunctional things going on with his computer. So we are joined by one of our greats that holds us up from behind the scenes to ahead of the scenes, Mr. Joe Knows. Joe, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. Was dying to come on to After Dark. I love the name. Originally, when I first saw it pop on week one, I was thinking it was going to be like a UFOs, paranormal, ghost experience type of. It sounded like that, After Dark. That's what I always thought. But I was even happier when I saw that it's football related stuff and cursing's allowed a little bit. At least as far as I can tell after the first 3 episodes. Nate is the only one who really drops a few F-bombs. So since I'm sitting in the Nate chair here in Jersey, a few may just drop because there's some players out there that deserve a few F-bombs aimed at them. So.
Oh, so you thought like
And a few coaches.
After Dark, it was like UFOs and aliens, all that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd be like, just at paranormal experience and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but listen, you know what? But it made me think. Off season when there's no NFL content, I think I might host a show like that.
Well, some say that I could be considered an alien from Mexico. So,
Yeah, you're gonna be the first guest.
all right. So as always, look, you can follow my man Abe on X at MVINFF. You can follow me at Frito Bandito _FF. You can always find my man Nate Dirt at Nate _Dirt 19, and you can find the whole crew at Toilets to Titles. Joe, where can we find you at, man?
Twitter handle is Joe J _Clark.
Nice,
So
nice.
it's pretty much my full name. I did not include my social security number, but I did put my full name in there.
Well, Joe, real quick before we get going and stuff like that, I know people kind of know a little bit about it, but where else can they find you? What other stuff you do for us?
Well, I do host a New York Giants show called New York Giants Corner. Airs Wednesday mornings, and then I do a lot of off-season stuff. But in season, like right now, I do a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, like a lot of posting of our articles. As a matter of fact, the PPR article, the weekly article that Rich and Jason have been working on, week 4 PPR top rankings is coming out tomorrow morning. So that's been updated. So we'll be posting that tomorrow morning. So I do a lot of stuff with the website throughout the year, but especially in season right now. So kind of like behind the scenes guy, and I kind of dig that job.
Nice. So a little housekeeping. Let's get this going. You can find all of our content, including articles, mock drafts, player rankings, and episodes at toiletsandtitles.com. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Make sure you give us some 5-star reviews and stuff like that. Coach and Justin, they'll pick a few here and there and read it out on Tuesdays on our Flagstaff show. Lastly, if you like to interact with the team, discuss NFL, fantasy football, or college football, or if you like to get into our weekly mock drafts, reach out to me or Coach at Coach Chefs to get into our gilded chat. We got a lot of members in there. I think we're pushing close to 240. We're constantly talking football advice. You name it, we're constantly talking about it in there. So let's go ahead and get going. Week 4 NFL news. So all those Swifty people
Slim
out
pickings.
there. Yeah, there ain't much going on. So we're gonna hit a few of those low hanging fruits and everything. So all you Swifty fans out there, look, Taylor Swift out there dating Travis Kelce. So they say she plans on attending a second game in a row this week at the Chiefs and Jets on Sundays. Hey, what's your guys' thoughts on this?
I mean, this is the first I've heard that she was at a football game. No, with all seriousness aside, I don't know. I mean, they showed her quite a bit from what I understand. Like I said, I was on the course we got out and teed off. Our tee time was 2:50 Central Time, and that game kicked off at 3:15 or 3:25, I think. So didn't get to see a lot of that, but I saw a lot of the highlights, and the highlights definitely showed her a lot. I don't know what to think. Who knows? Kelce scored a touchdown. I have Kelce in one of my bigger leagues, so I hope he continues to get in the end zone and make her proud up in the press or up in the stands. So,
Joe, you were over there.
It's so predictable what this is all about. I think I was bored of the two of them by the end of that game, to be honest with you. I have nothing against Taylor Swift, but this is going to be a blown up, just blown out of proportion. Who cares? Or at least I don't care. Blown out of, and I'm always on Twitter. It's going to be my Twitter feed constantly. Not looking forward to seeing it all the time. And I know what this is about. This is a setup by the both of them. He wants a song written about him, and she wants to write a song about him. So the eventual breakup comes, and she's known for writing songs about her ex-boyfriends. She'll have a great song about Travis Kelce. And her music's actually, pretty cool. I mean, I like 70s and 80s and 60s rock myself, but her music's pretty cool for contemporary music. I got to say, it's not bad. She's got some catchy tunes. So I know she's got that Travis Kelce song, the hit ready to go. I don't know what it's going to be called. Maybe Kelce Broke My Heart, or I Broke Kelsey's Heart. I don't know, but or Tight End Stink or something like that. But she's got the song written already, I'm telling you, for the eventual breakup.
All right. Let's move on to some real football. Week 4 is here, and after this week, does JT, Jonathan Taylor, return to the Colts and play for the Colts? Joe, what's your thoughts?
Man, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, it sounds crazy because every running back has gone back. Whether it's Brandon Jacobs, the guys who were the big time guys who were originally kind of sitting out or really voicing their displeasure early in the offseason, at the end of the offseason. Jacobs went back to the Raiders. Barkley went back to the Giants. That there's a different dynamic between Jonathan Taylor and the Colts, and he could just maybe hate the owner Irsay too, who is, I don't know much about him, but he looks and kind of sounds like a jerk or jerkish. So he may just be willing to just sit it out. Best I can say is 50-50. I really don't have a strong feeling where it's going to go. I think it's a different situation, obviously, than the other running backs, where it's devolved into something much worse.
Yeah, what do you think, Abe?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same thing. I just really don't know. This is usually I get a pretty good handle on a lot of things, but this is one I just don't know. Obviously the competitive nature that he has, and that pretty much all professional athletes have, that drive makes you want to come back and go and help your team. It does help that they're starting off on a better start than what a lot of people thought they were. I think that helps for him to come back, but ultimately there's some bad blood there, and I don't know what it is. Yeah. I mean, it just seems something that's just a little bit off. Every time I lean he'll definitely be back and play next week because they have started well, things like that. Then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, maybe he won't. I mean, I don't know, is he really hurt, or was it, some bad beef between him and ownership? I don't know. That's one thing that they've kept pretty tight between their ownership and their franchise. So it's hard to tell. I just don't know. I mean, fantasy football is better with Jonathan Taylor in it, whether he's with the Colts or someone else. So I hope he does come back. If he does come back, I hope he goes to a team that will utilize him. But at this point in time, I have a really tough feeling that I don't know if he'll be back for the Colts.
If he doesn't play this year, because I don't know how this always works, if he doesn't play this year, is he automatically a free agent, or do the Colts have, can they tag him again? Does anyone know?
That's a good question, because yeah. I believe he's still on his rookie contract, isn't he?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah. I don't know how that works with a rookie contract.
Yeah.
I don't think they can extend it because of the because of the franchise tag. I don't think so, but I'm not for sure on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure on that, but I think because of the fact that he did start the season and he started out on IR, it's already considered a season that they have to mark down as a season that he's being in. So I think that might factor into it. But here's the thing that kind of makes me really think. So, I think Jonathan Taylor was in line and ready to come back week 4. But you know what? Barkley gets hurt. Eckler gets hurt. The injury to Nick Chubb. Man, he's seeing this happening, and that's the reason why he's sitting out. This is the reason why these running backs are like, man, do I play on what you guys are willing to pay me and stuff like that? Because the same thing what happened to Nick Chubb could happen to me the first game back, and now I'm done for the season.
Yeah, and listen, people could rightfully bring up Le'Veon Bell. Look what happened to Le'Veon Bell. He doesn't necessarily have to go to like an organization. I'm not intentionally busting on the Jets or anything, but he went to an organization that had already been bad for a while, as far as I recall. Le'Veon Bell. I don't think it was just the 1 year sitting out. He went to Adam Gase, I think, was the head coach, who didn't even want him. So It was a really bad situation. That was incredibly stupid. I don't think a running back sitting out a year is really going to hurt his playing value. He may hurt his monetary value, but Jonathan Taylor at this point may not care. He may be willing to take less money from another organization. Like maybe he'll go to a really good team Miami Dolphins or something like that next year, or whatever. That maybe, or Buffalo Bills who were knocking on the door for a Super Bowl, and they'll pay him good money, but not top money. He may be willing to do that at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, he's been pretty tight-lipped. I mean, to say obviously he wants more money, and he wants his worth. I get that. I see that. A lot of running backs are saying that right now. But at this point in time, I mean, does he want to? Would he take a little less money to go to a team that's to be in the winner's circle? Come February, I don't know. That's something he's not really said much about. So it's hard to tell, which is why I don't really have much of a handle on it.
It could be that he's like, hey man, if I'm going to continue playing for the Colts for like 3 more years, then I want top notch money, which they're not going to give me. So because I really want out of here, and I'm not saying something against the fan base or the team itself. Maybe just he wants a clean break, and maybe he doesn't like ownership. That's just something. There are different factors there, and he's right now his situation is obviously different than Jacobs and Barkley.
Yep. So let's go ahead and move on to our last kind of 2 birds with 1 stone here. So the Jets. I heard Kaepernick wrote them a love letter saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm ready to play and everything." And I think the Jets kind of read that love letter and said, "Yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and sign Trevor and Simeon." So, like coming out of the news and stuff like that, the Jets did sign Trevor Simeon to the team this week. So, when does Trevor Simeon take over as a starting QB?
I mean, Zach Wilson last year lost his locker room. It looked like in preseason that he had a little bit of swag left in him. Had some confidence. His players had some confidence in him. The body language on the field right now with him is not good. You have a team that had high aspirations to make the playoffs, win in the playoffs, which they've not done in years, and possibly go to a Super Bowl with signing Rodgers. All that went by the wayside when you put Zach Wilson back under center. Trevor Simeon's not the answer. Colin Kaepernick is definitely not the answer. I don't know what they do. At first, I thought
you have done Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is there's a couple guys out there that they could get. I mean, last year, who was the guy that Flacco last year played pretty well?
Yeah,
and slung
Flacco.
Around. He slung it around pretty good for him last year. So I was shocked at the Simeon thing just because Flacco lives apparently an hour away from Jets facility. Why wasn't he called, or if he was, did he turn it down? Who knows? It's something we don't know. Trevor Simeon's not an answer. But I don't know what they do. They got to do something because that locker room seems to be in disarray right now with Zach Wilson at the helm.
Man, I mean, think about Garrett Wilson in particular. When they got Aaron Rodgers, I mean, you saw Garrett Wilson was seen all over the place. Ranger games, Knick games with Aaron Rodgers all over the place. He was like the happiest camper, and just and of course, I mean, it's so Jets, and I'm not saying that to be cruel. It's just like historical truth that it's so Jets that it was like 4th play, Aaron Rodgers. They spent two like top 5 picks, I believe, since 2018 on young quarterbacks, and Sam Darnold and then Zach Wilson. And then they trade, make a huge trade for Aaron Rodgers, and it's like four plays into the season, and he goes down with the season-ending injury, and it's like, just based on the history of the organization, like it's so Jets. It was incredible that happened, and but man, it's like everything, like just the politicking to get Aaron Rodgers by the rest of the team, or at least a very outspoken Garrett Wilson, and then and now Aaron Rodgers is down, and here's the guy they were politicking against. It's Zach Wilson, and I would have went for Carson Wentz. I think you had to get a guy in there who's been more recent, who's, I'm not saying he's great, but he's had some level of success, and I would have went for him over Trevor Siemian.
I agree.
Oh, Frito, you're on mute, buddy.
So you got Mike White over in Miami saying, "Man, hey, I'm available. Come get me. I don't, I wouldn't mind being a starter and everything." So there's other options out there too. I don't know if they ever go that route, but
he's the backup in Miami, right, Mike White?
That is, yep, true.
Yeah,
very true.
Yep.
But he could be the starter over in the Jets.
Oh yeah, 100%. The fan base loves him too.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into the meats and potatoes of the show. We are going to go over our fantasy favorites for week 4. I'll go ahead and start it out. Look, my favorite QBs this week is Justin Herbert versus the Raiders. We saw what happened this past week with the Raiders and the Steelers. Pickett is 10 times ranked down than Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert killed it this week against Minnesota. I see him stepping in against the Raiders and having another solid performance. I also like Jordan Love this Thursday versus the Lions and everything. I think that's going to be, I don't think it's rated as the high scoring game, but it possibly could be if everything lines up right for both offenses. Those are my QB favorites of the week. Joe, what is your QB favorites of the week?
I'm going with, and unfortunately, I'm a Giants fan, but I'm been hit with reality upside my head for the first 3 games, and I'm got to go with Geno Smith at MetLife Stadium on Monday Night Football for a few reasons. I think Geno is proven himself to be a good quarterback. He's got a good start to the season. I think his season's gotten better and better for the most part as this short season's gone along, and he's playing he's playing a Giants defense that's been horrible pretty much every way around. Not so much in the pass game, but have not gotten any pressure on the quarterback, very little so far this season. The run game has been horrible, so you'll see I've got a Seahawk running back in there as well. So Giants don't perform; they haven't performed well in primetime games in years. So until that trend ends, and Geno Smith had a good game against the Giants had a very admirable season last year. And Seattle handled them, pretty well last year too. So, things are not working for the Giants right now. Things are working okay for Seattle, and I think Seattle is just starting to heat up. I think they're just starting to, and they're getting some key guys back as well. I think a tackle. Who else is coming back? But they've got some key guys on defense. They've got some key guys coming back. So, so I like Geno Smith at MetLife on Monday Night Football against the Giants.
Go ahead and give us your
and the other quarterback. Okay, so also I've got Jalen Hurts versus Washington. I'm not big on Washington's defense. I think they're nice on paper, but I don't think they ever really perform in big spots. And just Philadelphia, I think, is another team that is, just ready to start rolling big time. They had some, hiccups the first 2 weeks. Last week they rolled. I think they're really they're going to start rolling. And I think Washington's kind of like be a speed bump. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to have an absolute monster game. And I think the defense is going to terrorize young Sam Howell. And so the Eagles' offense is going to have the ball. And yes, they probably will run. I guess they're more of a run-heavy team, but there's going to be plenty of work there for Jalen Hurts to get a lot of action.
Abe, who you got, man?
I don't really have any. I mean, obviously, I think all the big names up front that we talk about, we kind of talked about preseason. That's the main 4 or 5 that's done well so far. Herbert has looked good. It helps that their defense is absolutely awful so far to this point. They played a little bit better against Minnesota last week, but it's one of those things where I mean, I gotta go with. I don't care who plays quarterback for the Raiders this weekend, and John says it right now. He knew this was coming probably. The quarterback against the Chargers, whether it's Garoppolo or Aiden, whatever his last name is from Purdue,
Aiden Connell.
O'Connell. I like that matchup. The Chargers get the ball up and down the field, and so I think in the Raiders defense is sorry, Rich, but it's not that great. So. I just like that Las Vegas quarterback. I think that game's going to be going to see some points. And the Chargers defense is just not. They're impressive. If you look at their players on paper, you're like, man, this defense should be good, and it hasn't been so far. So, and then I like kind of a weird one. I was saying this. I don't know if it was last week or over the weekend. I've not watched C.J. Stroud play very much. But I got to watch him a little bit the last couple nights. He looks really good. And so I know the Steelers defense, they're always known for a good defense. They looked pretty good on Sunday Night Football, but their corners have been getting beat quite a bit. They've been banged up in the secondary a little bit. I know this is a huge game with, J.J. Watt getting a Ring of Honor. His brother is going to be on the other side of the field. Kind of a lot of stuff going on this weekend. We hear a lot, recently, especially maybe I hear it a little bit more being in Illinois. Listen, with the Ohio State quarterbacks, can't win in the NFL. They can't produce. They can't do well with Justin Fields and stuff like that being in Illinois. CJ Stroud's pretty darn good, man. And I think that he's going to have a chance to, showcase himself a little bit against a well-known team like the Steelers. So I'm looking forward to that matchup as well. You think Texans and Steelers, not a lot of points to be scored, but the Texans scored quite a bit against Jacksonville last week. They looked really good. And I think this is the 4th or 5th highest total on the board this week in Vegas. So, I mean, Kenny Pickett can't do it on the other side, so someone's got to put up some points. So I went with kind of an odd pick with C.J. Stroud against the Steelers.
Nice. So I'm not going to toot my own horn, but if I remember correctly last week from our show, Abe, I did call the Texans covering that 12.5 spread on the Jacksonville last week. So
you did. Yes, you did.
Look, it seems like the freaking Texans, they got something going. I don't think people.
Yeah.
Look, they got a young QB, kind of like what you want. They got a defense that, is going to start coming in shape and everything. And not only that, Tank Dell, looking beautiful and stuff like that. Next to Nico Collins and everything.
Yeah.
I came into the season thinking Nico Collins wasn't going to be that big of a factor, but him and Tank Dell are really stepping up for C.J. Stroud and everything. And you really sit there and wonder if Carolina is kicking themselves in the butt and stuff like that, thinking,
I think so.
We could have had Stroud,
Yeah,
I think so.
I'll tell you, there were 2 in the offseason leading up to the draft. There were 2 wide receivers, amongst others, but 2 wide receivers that were highly being touted here at Toilets to Titles for a while, from like January through draft day. One was Zay Flowers, who's the more well-known name, who went in the first round to Baltimore, and the other was another one was Tank Dell. These are guys that we were consistently talking about here at Toilets to Titles. So I would have loved to have Tank Dell on the Giants. I love that guy. He's turning out to be a real difference maker very quick.
All right, so let's jump into our running backs favorites of the week. Abe, let's go ahead and have you start us out with your running backs.
Okay, so I got Kenny Walker against the Giants. Man, he's looked really, really good this year. Sorry, Joe, but the Giants' run defense has not been that great. So I like Kenny Walker a lot.
That's being kind.
And then, speaking of bad defenses, I got Javonte. Obviously, if you watch the show, I'm a huge fan of Javonte. He's not done much this year. That Bears defense has not been good against the run. So I think Javonte Williams has a pretty good game this week. And on the other side of that game, Roshan against the Broncos, we saw, a couple of running backs for the Dolphins go out and rip up the Broncos. So I know that Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, We have a big tandem backfield there in Chicago, but I think that Roshan comes out and has a nice little coming out party, kind of like we saw last week with Mr. Achane, or however you say his name, Devin Achane. So those are my guys. Like I said, kind of the normal. We know that CMC is going to do his thing and all those people, but these are just kind of some odd guys to look forward to. But I really like how Kenny Walker's playing. He's been kind of a difference maker for him. Gino's been good. Not in my opinion, he hasn't been as good as what he was last year, and Kenny Walker's kind of carried the load for him in the first couple weeks.
All right, nice. Joe, what do you got?
Well, for my running backs, I have Kenneth Walker of Seattle. Same exact reasons as Abe. The Giants' run defense. I mean, the defense has been good overall, but the run defense has been particularly bad. So I took Geno Smith at the Giants on Monday Night Football. I'm taking Kenneth Walker the third at the Giants. MetLife on Monday Night Football, and I'm also going with Bijan against Jacksonville as well. Bijan's been having a great season so far. Jacksonville has been very disappointing. I realize it's in Jacksonville, but I'm going to go with the hot hand in Bijan Robinson against the cold hand in Jacksonville. So that's where I'm going.
That game's overseas, right? I think that's Sunday morning. I don't know if
was it a London game or Germany?
I think so. Yeah, I believe so.
Oh, I wasn't
Jacksonville's
even aware.
Other home stadium.
Yeah, right.
Jacksonville's other home stadium. They play there every year. So
I love it. Yeah, they do. I know. And the talk of them possibly moving there possibly in the future, but I didn't even realize that. So, but yeah, I'm taking Bijan.
I didn't realize either. I didn't think it was this soon so far in the season already. So.
I like the London games, waking up early for those games.
My running backs for this week, look, I'm on the same train with you on Javonte Williams versus the Bears. He's been subpar. I want him to break out and everything and stuff like that. Maybe this is the week that they do it. Broncos have looked horrible starting out and everything, especially last week getting a beat down from Miami and everything. So I look to turn around for them to put 70 points up on the Bears after they just got 70 points put up on them. So a man could wish, a man could dream, right? Look, next one I got is Alvin Kamara. Look, he's coming back from his suspension. Fresh legs. He knows this offense. They know him. The thing that's going to benefit him, I think, with the first game coming back is Jameis Winston as the QB and not Derek Carr as the QB this week. There's a possibility that Derek Carr might not be playing this week. And if Jameis Winston is the QB, look, he has familiarities with him. So I think Alvin is with the fresh legs is look to come out of the gates. Maybe with the 5-16 touchdown performance like he did. Was that last year or the year before?
I think that was 2 years ago on near Christmas. I think it is what it was. I think.
So I'm hoping for a 5 TD touchdown for his debut for the 2023 season.
Yeah, the Saints kind of have the Bucs number. Even when Brady was there, Saints they always play well against Tampa Bay.
All right, receivers. I'm going to go ahead and lead off with the receivers for our fantasy favorites this week. Same game, actually both same games that I got my running backs. I'm going back to back with receivers too. I love Chris Olave this week versus the Bucs. He's actually in my top 10 rankings this week. So if you get an opportunity, go on titles.com, check it out, and check me and Jason's rankings out. I like his matchup. Another one that I'm looking for, another breakout game, because he did start out the season on the injury report, is Jerry Jeudy. Look, Courtland Sutton's been getting a lot of targets these past games and everything, but I think this is a game that Jerry Jeudy kind of steps in and starts taking over that number one receiver role in Denver, especially against the defense they're going against the Bears. Joe, you're on mute.
Who created those damn mute buttons? I'm gonna go with my two wide receivers. I'm going with Tyreek Hill at Buffalo. Miami looks phenomenal right now. I realize Buffalo's got a good defense, but Miami's offense is something else. And Tyreek Hill and his quarterback are extremely hot. I'm a big believer in sticking with those hot, proven connections. Two is not a fluke. That offense is not a fluke. I'm sticking with that. I realize that this isn't like the Giants defense they're playing. I get it, but it's still they're up in Buffalo. But it's it's a nice time of the year. This isn't December, so I'm going to stick with Hill against Buffalo. And then my second wide receiver I'm taking is I like Jamar Chase against the Titans. I think the Bengals are starting to heat up. Good game they just had against the Panthers. Huge believer in Jamar Chase. It's about time. He has like a monster game, and so I know Titans defense has been tough as usual, but I like this. I like this matchup. I think he's ready for a breakout game, and there's only so many weeks that Jamar Chase is not gonna have like a monster week. So I think this is it. I really like the situation a lot.
Well, I do like the points he put up this past week. So if he could even have a monster game on top of the game he put up this past week, I'd be loving that. Abe, who you got?
I got a couple guys, and it's based solely on matchups. Devontae Adams, looked absolutely phenomenal last week. Pissed off after the game last week, and he's got another phenomenal matchup this week. He's going to go up primarily against Michael Davis, the right corner for the Chargers, and he's been getting torched this year. So I like Devontae a ton. Brandon Ayuk, another guy that has a great matchup this week. He should be going up against Marco Wilson, that's been getting beat up a little bit. So those are two guys that I like right off the bat. Ayuk has been a little banged up, but I think this is a nice game for him to come back to. My third guy I have is, we talked a little bit earlier about him, is Nico Collins. This team, Tank Dell's been great. Nico's been, getting a lot of targets. This team's fun to watch. It's one of those teams that, they're not big name guys coming out of the draft that we know about. Obviously CJ Stroud, they had two of the top three picks, or two of the top four, a couple of the top four. But anyways, Nico Collins is one of those guys that just gets targets. Tank Dell's getting kind of a lot of the credit right now in the fantasy world, as well as he should. He was CJ Stroud's guy. I think Stroud actually went out, he was one guy that Stroud wanted they played in I don't know if it was some bowl last year or something, but they became buddies, good friends, good connection. But Nico Collins has been there also, and he's got a really good matchup against Pittsburgh's cornerback. Levi Wallace, I think, is his name. So those are the matchups I like, and and all three of those should be putting up some numbers. So those are the three wide receivers I like: is Adams against the Chargers, Nico against the Steelers, and Ayuk against the Cardinals.
Nice. So before we jump into our tight ends, we're going to go ahead and go to the chat real quick and answer one of our people watching today. Kyle Singer, he has a question: Ford or Kelly full PPR this week? Joe, what's your take on this one?
That's a good one. I'm going to go with Ford. I'll go with Ford. Browns love to run the ball. I think Ford will be effective, and I know Kareem Hunt is back, but is he going to be? This is his first week back, right? Like, I don't know if he's going to be fully woven into the into the game plans there, and how much game shape he's in. I'm unsure. So I would assume I'd roll with Ford. I think they're both good options, but I'd roll with Ford.
Abe, who you got?
I think Ford's probably the play here also. Cleveland doesn't Baltimore doesn't give up a whole lot to quarterbacks fantasy wise. And I just think this game is going to be slowed down a little bit with Cleveland's defense. So I think that kind of bodes well for Jerome Ford. The last couple of weeks with no Eckler, you kept thinking like, okay, this is a get right. This is a Josh Kelly game. He had a way better game when he was the second fiddle when Eckler played than what he was when he's the main guy. But I don't think that. I think that Kelly's not a bad play this week, but me personally, I probably would go with Ford. I think that game's going to be a lot of ground game. So I don't think either one is a bad play. I think Ford has probably a higher floor, but the scoring of the Chargers could give Josh Kelly a little bit higher of a ceiling.
Yep. So look, Kelly is in the Chargers. They're playing against the Raiders. Now, as much as we want to say the Raiders defense has not been good and everything, the one thing we can say is they're not giving up a lot in the run game to opposing running backs. Najee Harris and Warren, look, they had mediocre games last week and stuff like that. Wasn't no running back touchdowns. It was all receiving. Kelly has had the opportunity to step in while Eckler has been out to really show that he could be part of this team, and he really hasn't shown it and everything. And I think that's going to be the same case this week against the Raiders. It's going to be more of a passing attack and everything. Ford, on the other hand, look, everybody was afraid of him last week with it being his first week in the starting role. Okay. Kareem Hunt did actually play last week. He did have some opportunities in the game. He actually got in a little bit early and stuff like that. But Ford had 2 touchdowns last week against one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL. He scored a rushing, and what even makes me want to pick Ford more is he scored one in the passing game. So for me, this is an easy choice. Ford is who you ride this week. Kelly, Kyle, thank you for checking in, and he did have one more. We'll go ahead and do this one real quick. One more, Ertz or Ferguson, full PPR. Love you long time. Abe loves you a long time.
Ertz or Ferguson? That's a tough call because last week I said that Ertz was leading the all tight ends with targets going into last week, and last week he put up pretty much a dud. I'm a Jake Ferguson guy. I think that Dallas and especially Dak loves throwing to his tight ends. And even though Ertz last week I was pretty high on him, he let me down. So this week, out of spite, I'm going to go with Ferguson on that. Once again, a pretty close matchup, which is probably why you're asking. But I would choose Ferguson over Ertz this week.
Joe?
That's a tough one. Who's Arizona even playing? They're playing the 49ers.
Oh, yeah, 49ers. Yep.
Yeah, they're playing the 49ers. Oh, gosh. All right, you know what? I guess I'll go with Ferguson. I don't really like I probably would have went with Ferguson anyway, but my concern was that even though I think Dallas is a substantially better team than the Patriots, you're still dealing with a Bill Belichick defense. So I'll go with Ferguson because Ertz is going against the 49ers. And Arizona's played very, very admirably, even against, obviously, they defeated Dallas last week, which was an incredible upset. But, man, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about this week. I got a bad feeling for the Cardinals this week, which I didn't have last week. I didn't think they were going to beat Dallas, but I was shocked by the upset. But I got a bad feeling for Arizona this week. I'll go with Ferguson. I think he's getting used more and more by the Cowboys. I like that. And the Cowboys traditionally have made a lot of use out of their tight ends. So I like it. I'll go with Ferguson over as well.
I'm going Ferguson too. Ferguson, if I still believe it's correct, he's leading all targets in the red zone and everything for the Cowboys, even with him having CeeDee Lamb there and stuff. Ferguson's the one that they're targeting when they're in the red zone. So I do like Ferguson over Ertz. Now, Ertz is a great option. I think he does have a fairly decent game and stuff like that, but Ferguson is the choice I would pick in this one. Kyle, thank you again. Let's go ahead and get back and close out our fantasy favorites, tight end positions. I am going with Gerald Everett with the injury to Mike Williams this past week. I know Gerald Everett is a little nicked up too and everything, so I'm going to do a combo here. It's going to be the Gerald Everett Donald Parham show. Donald Parham had 2 touchdowns this past week and everything. So that's who I'm looking at tight ends against the Raiders. And then, look, when you talk tight ends, who do you have to always mention when you talk tight ends? Mr. Travis Kelce. Look, I know they're playing the Jets. Jets defense is good and everything, but look, Kelsey's going to score against this Jets. Mahomes, Kelce, they're going to maybe tag up for 2 TDs this game. I really do like this game a lot because of Miss Taylor Swift sitting in the stands rooting them on.
I was waiting for that little add-on. And Sunday Night Football. That might have something to do with it as well.
There you go. I actually think Taylor Swift is actually this is a whole ploy to come on Sunday night so she can maybe boot Carrie Underwood out from taking over the introduction of this, and she wants to be.
Let's not go that far. Let's not go that far.
Hey,
I like it, Rich.
Conspiracy theory. I'm
I
just throwing that
like
out.
it.
Hey, we got Justin
I
in the
like
chat. I see you guys made an improvement for tonight's show. Hey,
Wowzers.
or
Poor
is it
Nate.
this way? All right, those are my tight ends. Abe, who's your tight ends?
I have Samuel Laporta tomorrow night against Green Bay. 18 catches through 3 games, looked really, really good. This is one guy I was really high on. All we hear in the offseason is tight ends don't come in and produce, quickly like we've seen wide receivers do the last 3 or 4 years. This guy looks like the real deal. I always said all offseason, I'm like, this guy, for some reason, he doesn't look like a Dallas Clark, but his hands, his body movement, the way he can move around, he kind of corkscrews to catch balls. Reminds me a lot of Dallas Clark. This guy's impressive. Like, he's really, really good. In my opinion, him and the guy from Green Bay that I like a lot too. We're seeing 2 young tight ends come in and do some damage early, which is pretty rare out of the position. So I like Laporta a lot against Green Bay. Green Bay's struggle against the tight end. They don't do well against it as much because, especially when Jair is healthy, because Jair is locking down a corner on the outside, so that opens up things up the middle. And then I like Dalton Kincaid against the Dolphins. Listen, the Dolphins are going to score points. The Bills are going to get up and down the field. It's got to go to someone. Dalton Kincaid has looked better and better every single week. So I just think that there's volume there for Dalton Kincaid. I think there's going to be a scoreboard lit up against the Dolphins. So those are 2 of the guys that I really look forward to this week. I know I'm talking about 2 rookies, but as I said last week, the tight end position has just kind of been a little bit of a dud this year. So those are my 2 guys that I'm really looking forward to this weekend: Laporta tomorrow night and Kincaid against the Dolphins.
Well, Laporta is I think he came out of Iowa, and Iowa is known for producing its tight ends. So there you go again. And Dalton Kincaid, man, I think I had him on like 1 or 2 of my teams, fantasy teams. Back end of the draft, I took him because I don't think I might still have him on one of my teams, but I knew that all the reports coming out of Buffalo is like he's not just lining up as a tight end. They're lining him up all over the place. Slot, outside. So they're using him a lot as a receiver, and I love that. They needed receiver help or receiver-like help for Stephon Diggs. It can't just be Diggs. They needed a more consistent weapon than just Gabriel Davis, who wasn't all that great last year, even though we all had expectations for him. My tight ends, I'm always going with Travis Kelce. If Travis Kelce's healthy, I don't care who they're playing. I'm always going with him. Any chance you think that Sauce Gardner covers? You can't really, right? You can't really have. But who else would you put Sauce Gardner on for the Chiefs in terms of the wide receivers? That's the thing with they don't have like a Tyreek Hill, like an obvious number 1 wide receiver. They'd have to deploy a Sauce Gardner on. But then again, it's not like if Kelsey's blocking, it's not like Sauce Gardner is going to be, if he's blocking the run game, that is Kelsey. I don't know. Could he play? Kelsey's the obvious best weapon. So I'm wondering about that.
Maybe not. Maybe they don't have him covering him, but maybe he does go to the side that Kelsey lines up on and everything. Yeah. I don't see him following Kelsey as far as like matching up, but he might be moving to the side that Kelsey always lines up to. I could see that happening.
Yeah, because I think like putting Gardner on any of these other receivers for Kansas City, it's almost like a, kind of like a waste. Like Mahomes is going to distribute the ball no matter what. There's no, like I said, there's no Tyreek Hill to try to clamp down over here. So I'm taking Travis Kelce, even though the Jets defense is good. The team isn't good right now. They're not in a good place with Zach Wilson as their quarterback. Chiefs are looking really, really good, and I'm always taking Zach Wilson. I'm always taking Travis Kelce if he's healthy. And the other one is Hawkinson. Hawkinson's had a really good start to the year. In my mind, these days, he is tight end 2 over Andrews. So I'm taking Hawkinson at the Panthers. And the quarterback has been slinging the ball like a madman. He's having probably his best season so far. Maybe not record-wise, but Kirk Cousins just, personally, this might be his best year so far. So he's been throwing the ball very, very well. So I like Hawkinson against the Panthers.
All right. So while we are on the tight end talking points right here, Kittle or Laporta for the start for this week. I think to me, I think Laporta you have to start over Kittle right now. He's right now he's proven that he's the better starting running back right now. He's having a lot more opportunities. Kittle is slowly is making it into getting into that rhythm again and stuff like that. So to me, out of these two choices, it is Laporta. Either you guys disagree?
No, I mean Laporta's a number 2 option, clear number 2 option in Detroit. Whereas Kittle, if Ayuk's back, you have McCaffrey, you have Debo, you have Ayuk. Kittle may be the 4th option there in a game that may not be close. He may not play a lot in the second half. I like Laporta more than Kittle this week.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay. So we're going to go into this next question real quick, and then we'll go ahead and jump into our DFS lineups. So also, Guy is offering me one of Najee Harris, Khalil Herbert, or Dameon Pierce for Tank Dell. I'm sending out Dell, and I need a running back to be honest, but which one? If you're giving up Tank Dell, which one are you wanting out of these running backs, guys?
I mean, I think I'd probably have to go with Dameon Pierce. Khalil Herbert, I'm not really sold on. Najee Harris averages 2.2 yards a carry. Dameon Pierce, I just think that offense and that schedule, the AFC South opens up a little bit more for him later on in the season. I would probably go Pierce 1, Najee 2, Khalil Herbert 3 out of those.
Joe?
I agree with Abe, and I don't like those selections. I am out. I'm done with Najee Harris. I'm done with Najee Harris. Dameon Pierce, I probably agree with Abe on Dameon Pierce because Khalil Herbert in Chicago. I'll say this, side-eye Muppet. If there's a chance, if he's available, you might want to. If he's available on waivers and you've got the space on the bench, you might want to pick up Roschon Johnson. For Chicago, he's kind of like Khalil Herbert's, I guess, RB. He's like the RB2 behind Khalil Herbert. Roschon Johnson's getting more and more into the game every single week right now. And I don't know if he's going to wind up taking over for Herbert, but I know the Bears love Roschon Johnson a lot, and they're using him more and more in the game. Passing game hasn't been all the great. So I think Roschon Johnson, I don't think Khalil Herbert's really going to give you too many more points than Roschon Johnson. So you might want to see if he's available on waivers before you make that trade. Personally, I'd rather have Tank Dell than any of those running backs. But
so he did
I agree. I'll go with Dameon Pierce. If that's what you have to do, if you have to make the move, I'll go with Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, so he does have Roschon Johnson. So he does have him partnered up with Herbert and everything. Look, I'm going to go the Dameon Pierce route. He has not looked good and everything, but neither has Najee Harris and Khalil Herbert. Dameon Pierce, to me, still, I don't know. This is a tough choice because Devil Singletary has been getting a lot of opportunity with them being behind games and everything. So if I had to make a pick, I'm going to go with Dameon Pierce on this. All right, so Side-Eye Mucket, if you like to support the team and become part of the Title Tribe, make sure you check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Toilets come join our Gilded and everything. Look, we got tons of stuff. We could be answering these questions. If you ain't part of our Gilded yet, reach out to us so we could get you part of our team and within our Gilded chat. We have everybody in there helping each other by answering these kind of questions and everything. All right, Abe. It is that time of the show where we go over our DFS lineups. We are already 48 minutes in, so let's go ahead and just run down our lineups. I'll let you go ahead and start out.
So I like at quarterback, I like the Carolina quarterback, whether it be Young or Dalton. Either one, they're both, I think, within $100 of each other. My running back, I like Roschon. I think, he's a cheaper option. I like Tony Pollard to have a bounce back game. I know he ran the ball pretty well last week, but didn't put up a lot of fantasy points. My receivers, I like Devontae. I like Justin Jefferson. And I like Josh Palmer out of the Chargers. My tight end, I have Dalton Kincaid. In the flex, I like Adam Thielen a lot this week to pair up with the Carolina quarterback and then the opposite side of Justin Jefferson. And as defense goes, pretty cheaper option this week is the Browns D. I like the Browns D as a $2,800 option on DraftKings.
So the Browns were 2,800.
Yeah.
I must have missed that when I was looking at my DFL lineup, because I actually went with Texans. They were at 2,900, and the fact that you're telling me the Browns are sitting at 2,800, I might have to go back in there and relook at a few situations. Save me a little bit more, couple dollars and everything. But I got Justin Herbert at QB at 7,800. I got Javonte Williams at 5,500. I actually got Cam Akers. I went cheap at 4,900 with him being traded to Minnesota. He didn't play last week at all, but I see them kind of working him, getting him worked in this week and everything. And against Carolina, it might be a good opportunity for him where he gets some good opportunity and everything. At receivers, I went Devontae Smith against Washington, and I also went T. Higgins. I'm also going Gabe Davis. I like his opportunity this week in that high-scoring game between Miami and Buffalo. I could see him maybe getting in for 2 touchdowns this week, so I really like Gabe Davis at 5,900. I went cheap at tight end, Donald Parham, after the performance he had last week, and with Mike Williams getting hurt, I could see him being more involved in the game. It almost like with Everett being out and everything, he might be the tight end of the future for the Chargers. Is it too? I mean, am I crazy to think that maybe Mr. 8-Chain can have another solid performance? Maybe not as good as last week, but maybe get in for 1 touchdown at 5,700 and stuff like that. I'm taking a chance with him at the flex position. Joe, any thoughts on any of our choices?
Nope. I don't know much about. I really don't know anything about DFS and that sorcery. So I'm gonna just clamp. I'm not gonna say a thing.
Gotcha. All right. Before we jump into our favorite lines of the week, we do got a few more questions. We got an active chat in here, so we're gonna go ahead and jump Ford, Garrett Wilson, or Nico Collins at flex. Joe, who you got?
I went with Ford. It was really close between. I can't take Garrett Wilson with Zach Wilson at quarterback. For me, it was a close one between Ford and Nico Collins. But CJ is distributing the ball really well down in Houston. So I'm gonna go with Ford with a team that likes to run the ball.
Abe?
Really close for me also between those two. Garrett Wilson, I can't believe we're saying this. A month ago, we were like, what kind of question is this? But I agree with you 100%. Ford and Nico Collins are the 2 closest. I think if you want the upside for kind of an explosive game, you go Nico Collins. If you want a guaranteed 10, 12 points, you go with Ford. Just kind of depends on how your lineup sets up. But those 2, outweigh Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, so for the past 2 weeks, I've been beating the drum on our weekly start sit show every Sunday at 10:30 Eastern time. If you have Garrett Wilson and stuff like that, you drafted him high and everything. And the fact that we're having to ask this question is absurd. 2 weeks ago, I stood my ground and I said, if you have Garrett Wilson, you're keeping him in your lineup. Okay. I stood my ground. He scored a 60-yard touchdown that week and everything. And I was like, okay, look, even your best players are going to find opportunity. If they're truly good at what they do, they're going to get a chance to shine. Next, all of a sudden last week, same question was asked, and I was like, you know what? I'm holding my ground. You start your players that you drafted high. You know what? This week, I think I'm changing my mind. I think I'm kind of stepping off that stool, and in this case right here, because of your options and stuff like that, I am going to go Ford. I know long roundabout answer to get to this and stuff because I was pounding the drum for Garrett Wilson, but in this case, I have to go Ford. I'm going running back at flex because if he could get 2 touchdowns against a stout defense last week, he could at least get 1 this week, either in the passing or running game. Thomas, I hope that helped you out. All right, let's close this show out.
Real quick, I will say this about Garrett Wilson. I think there is hope where I think Trevor Siemian is an upgrade over Zach Wilson, at least right now, unless somehow Zach Wilson, finds that switch to flip. Garrett Wilson could play well. Listen, he played well with Mike White. I was never really big Mr. Mike White, but he's played well with other quarterbacks not named Zach Wilson. So I'm not saying Trevor Siemian is Aaron Rodgers, Jr. or anything, but just even a simple upgrade could mean a lot for Garrett Wilson.
That's very, very true and stuff.
In a few weeks.
Yep.
Maybe.
All right. Favorite lines of the week for all you gambling degenerates out there. Abe, I'm going to go to the best gambling degenerate that we have on our team.
Oh, I don't know. That's not a good thing. I've been pretty cold gambling this year, but we're going to try it again this week. So I think the Cardinals plus 14. They've played pretty well this year, surprisingly well. They've stayed in games. Surprised the heck out of everyone. It was Dallas last week. So I got the Cardinals plus 14. It's a huge spread in the NFL, so I like that. I like the Steelers-Texans over 42.5. I talked about it earlier. I think that game has a little more points than what we're typically thinking of for a Houston Texans and Steelers game. And then I like the Bears plus 3.5. I like them at home. And the only reason why I like that is because of the hook. If that was 2.5, I would not be choosing that game. I think this game comes down to a field goal. This game, it seems like, is two of the worst teams in football right now through 3 weeks. But I think that the Bears playing at home, getting 3.5. I like that 3.5 points. If it was, like I said, if it was 3 or 2.5, I would not like it. But Sean Payton said that, hey, these are the sweepstakes for Caleb. So it kind of sounds like that's what he wants to do. So that's why I think the Bears win this, or at least cover 3.5.
So not only do we sit here and discuss fantasy football and gambling aspect of it, but we love to be known as teachers within the gambling world and everything. So once again, like I've always done from last season, Abe, please explain to our many eyes that watch our show, what is the hook?
The hook is, so a typical game, is 7 points or 3 points, 7 points for a touchdown, 3 for a field goal. So the hook is when you add that half point to it. So the Bears plus 3.5 means Bears plus 3 in the hook. Games are decided a lot of times by 3 points or 7 points, most likely. And so when you add that hook to it, it just kind of gives you a little bit of an advantage. If there's a 3-point game and the Bears are down 3 and they're coming down to tie it, and whether they miss the field goal or take it into overtime, that extra half point does help. So.
And once again, that's why we love to educate to all our viewers out there and make sure that they understand what they're getting themselves in when they're putting their hard-earned money out there for anybody to take. Joe, give me your favorite lines of the week.
I love that line that Abe brought up, the Arizona getting 14 points considering how tough they've played. And hats off to the Arizona Cardinals for they played. A team that was supposed to be tanking. Obviously the players and the coaches didn't get that memo. So hats off to Arizona. I'm going to go with Dallas having a bounce back game. They're giving 6.5 to New England, and I never, ever, ever discount a New England Patriots team that's coached by Bill Belichick. But the game's in Dallas. They just, kind of got embarrassed by Arizona. Kudos to Arizona, but Dallas should not have lost that game. And so it's in Dallas. I think that defense is going to have a Dallas defense is going to kind of feast on Mac Jones. And I'm not someone who disses Mac Jones. I do think it's a tough situation that he's going into in Dallas. That defense is serious. The team as a whole is going to have a bounce back game. And really, when you're talking about 6.5 points, it's a touchdown. It's not like it's a blowout. So I'm going to take Dallas giving the 6.5. And then the other game I'm going to go with is I'm going to go with the Dolphins getting 2.5 up in Buffalo. If I recall correctly, I think the Dolphins beat Buffalo last year. Was it twice or did they beat them once? Anyway, I like the Dolphins in Buffalo. It's not cold up there right now. If this were December, that would be different. And I would, I got to say, I'd feel better about it if they also had Jalen Waddle, which they don't. But I think Miami is just a better team than Buffalo, to be honest with you, at this point. So I'm going to take them getting the 2.5 points up in Buffalo.
So Abe, I think when I was going down and looking all the lines this week and everything, I think this is one of the first weeks in a long time that I saw so many games that are within 3 and under. I don't know if you noticed that and everything, but it just kind of blew me. And I hate seeing games where it's 2.5. I hate those trying to pick that because it's almost like for me personally, if I see something that's 2, I always have to go for the plus. I can
Yeah.
never go for the minus 2.5. Your take on that?
I think anything under 3 typically is almost especially in the NFL. It's a little different from college, but anything under 3 is kind of like is kind of like a pick 'em to me. So we don't see too many games that end in a 1 or 2 point game. I say that and watched the Packers game last week, win by 1 and a field goal, miss with a minute to go where the Saints could have won by 2. So, but typically in the NFL, you see games in the 3 to 7 point range, 3 to 8 point range. So typically, if it's under 3, I typically like to go towards the money line and think who's going to win this game outright. And if you can get a team at plus points, why not bet them on the money line where you can get some plus money on it as well?
Yep. So with that being said, my favorite lines of the week, and just as I got done complaining about it, I am going Dolphins plus 2.5. I think Dolphins outright win this game. Joe said it. I think they're the better team. I'm hoping Waddle's back for this game to even make it more. If Waddle comes back, does that spread change?
I don't think so. I think that they pretty much think he's coming back because he practiced.
Oh, I didn't even know. That was, and I took that too with the assumption that he would be out. I didn't because I don't have Waddle in any of my leagues, so I wasn't paying that much attention. I didn't even realize there was a chance. I thought he was coming back next week. I thought he was definitely out this week. I'm wrong. Don't pay attention to me, but I assumed he was just out, Waddle.
Yeah, I think there's a chance he does play this week because it was a concussion protocol and everything. And so I think nowadays and stuff like that, they keep everybody out for the week, for 1 week before they bring them back and everything. So I also like the Cardinals plus 14 like Abe. That's a big spread. And look, Cardinals ain't laying down for anybody. Initially this year, I was thinking Cardinals were going to lay down, and they're not doing it. They're going to give it a fight now. Bills just manhandled them last week. I'm sorry, not Bills. Who did they play last week? I totally slipped my
Dallas?
mind. Yeah.
Oh, they manhandled Dallas?
Well, no, I was thinking Arizona,
San
Washington.
Francisco?
Yeah. No, I was thinking Washington and Bills.
Okay. Yeah.
I see Cardinals, and for some reason, Washington comes to my head. But like I said, Cardinals. Look, they're giving everybody a fair fight. I like this. I think they make it closer than what this is saying. And then I do like the Giants -1, Joe. I want to see the Giants come out with the win. They're starting out on a bad foot. So I like the Giants at -1. I think they win this game by field goal.
They're going to literally kill the Seahawks at MetLife, not figuratively, but literally.
Like 70 points figuratively.
No, literally, like they're going to bury him next to Jimmy Hoffa.
All right, guys. So, look, that is our favorite lines of the week. Look, for everybody that jumped on the show, I hope we were able to answer all you guys' questions.
I think we got one more in there, Rich.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bring this one up real quick.
I think it's Watson or Dobbs. I'm assuming those are both the Packers wide receivers.
Oh, I was thinking. I asked, was he talking Superflex? I was thinking Deshaun. Forget it.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's tomorrow night between both Packers wide receivers. That's a tough call. Dobbs has had a pretty good connection. If we're assuming both wide receivers, Dobbs had a good connection. I think Watson could have played on Sunday if they didn't have this Thursday night game against a division opponent. So Watson, I mean, he can take any pass to the house. So that's a tough call. I like Dobbs' matchup a little bit more on the left side against the right corner for the Lions. So I would probably go with Dobbs tomorrow night.
Yeah,
I
look,
agree.
Watson is still he's still coming back from the injury. It might take him a game to get into a rhythm and everything. Dobbs has looked decent and everything in his games and stuff. He had one game or 2 touchdowns. He did score this past week too, did he not?
Yeah, he did. Yep.
That's what I thought. So, so look, I in this route, you're going Dobbs until Watson has come in and shown that look, he's going to make it through a game and everything. And he looks healthy and everything. I think once it's truly said and done, Watson does rise to the top and everything. But let's give him a week or two to get into it and get that rhythm with Jordan Love. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
You
Go
know
ahead,
what's
Joe.
crazy though? I feel bad. Like, my beloved New York Giants are on many primetime games this season, and it's probably going to be ugly most of the times. Maybe even this Monday night game too. But you look at like the matchup where you got Dolphins and Bills, I think are like 4 o'clock or 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon. That's crazy. I mean, that is a game that should be flexed to what is it, like 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon? I think. Yeah, 1 o'clock Sunday. That's a game that should be flexed. That's crazy.
They
Oh
usually
man.
don't
Yeah, that one's
flex
gonna be a good
this
one.
early in the season, right?
Yeah. Well, that always should have been a primetime game, Bills and Dolphins. That always should have been baked into the cake when they were doing the scheduling. That's crazy. But anyway, I'm done with my little rant.
All right. So once again, Abe, you got anything before we get out of here?
Nope. Just looking forward to another week. Like I said last week, going into it, we're getting a little bit more and more data on these players. So
Yeah.
hang in there if you're starting out a little bit slower in fantasy. It is a long season. Just have some patience and keep working the waiver wire and stuff like that. But it's we're getting to the thick of it now. We're starting to see some football. Some guys that didn't play in the preseason are starting to get their legs underneath them. So hang in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
Joe, you got anything before we get out of here?
We're getting to that, like Abe was just saying, we're getting into the thick of it just in time for the fall. Just in time for the fall, for the nice cooler weather. The leaves turning. Looking forward to it. Pumpkin spice at Dunkin' Donuts is back. So love it. Everything is coming up aces right now.
All right. So once again, we appreciate everybody that showed up in the chat. I want to end it on this note. I'm here for Brandon Staley portion of the program. Nate, anything to add? So in Nate, in the spirit of Nate, damn fucking Nate, freaking Brandon Staley, he freaking stinks.
I
That's
agree.
how we're
Listen,
out the show tonight.
I'll be proud to stand in here for Nate and be his voice. Brandon Staley is horrible. Absolutely horrible. That guy stinks. If we ever do a that guy stinks series, an episode, Brandon Staley will be right up there with Corey Davis.
Joe, you didn't know about our show about that already? We have it every Wednesday.
Is it every Wednesday?
That guy stinks.
Yeah.
Nate
Get out of here.
Nate goes off on his tangent. It's Brandon
Really?
Staley.
Oh yeah, he hosts like 10 players every Wednesday of that guy's stinks. It's the Nate special episode. It's our secret episode. You've never seen it.
I gotta check. Well, listen, it's time to bring it to the forefront. Put it out on Reddit and everything. Let's do it.
All right, guys. So once again, please follow us on YouTube. Hey, hit us up. Come join our Gilded Chat. We're constantly having all kinds of information that we're giving out and everything. So come check us out. Hit the subscribe button, leave comments in our video. It really helps us out and everything and stuff like that. So with that being said, Joe, Abe, me, the Frito Bandito, and Mr. Nate Dirt Dog, it's been a pleasure, guys.
Take care, all. Have a great week.